يا رب صل على نبيك دائما في هذه الدنيا وبعد صل على نبيك دائما في هذه الدنيا وبعد.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome back, MK Vibe Podcast. I'm Intizaz Ahmed. We've got some cool guests today. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. I'm not even gonna waste time. Brother, what's your name?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Asjad Amjad. I am the missionary in St. Louis. Originally from the East Coast, New York City, New Jersey. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Omar Farouk. I'm back again.
Back again. Rubi we always love your company, man.
Jazakallah.
That's why we keep bringing you back.
Jazakallah. I appreciate it.
We love it, man. And so this is gonna be great, man. I see you brought your New York hat today. You brought
Always gotta
your
rep.
Boggy Ahmed hoodie.
East Coast. Always got to
Are they still selling those hoodies, or is it just over now?
Limited edition.
It was
man.
limited. It was
At one
exclusive,
time.
right?
Exclusive.
Yeah.
It had to be there.
You had to be there.
Yeah.
That was an amazing barbecue, by the way. Honestly,
Delicious.
every person I spoke to, we were all agreed. Like, I had my nephews back there barbecuing, and I'm gonna be honest, they were helping, but they probably were sneaking some botis in there for taste testing purposes. You know what I'm saying?
You have those fumes coming at you, bro. You can't be counting how many you're putting in the thing and in your mouth.
Yeah.
One for the box, one for your mouth.
Yeah,
One
man.
for the box.
Yeah, exactly.
For your mouth.
But it was I actually have a hoodie, so I'm pretty biased. I think they should bring those back. So talk to your people to put that back out there.
Sure, we could
inshallah.
do like a throwback kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, inshallah.
But man, let's jump right into it. Like with everything that's going on, like it's hectic times, man. You're from New York City, New Jersey area. Now you're in St. Louis, completely different vibe. But at the same time, like there's a lot going on out there, right?
For sure.
Like from the perspective of like an average Qadam, like what's the point, man? Like the reality is like I could go about living my day to day, whether I'm in school or I go to work and not pray. I could go X amount of days and whether I'm intentionally doing it or not, right? I get so caught up in my day to day that I'm not prioritizing to pray or I'm not prioritizing to do the basic Islamic things that are laid out in the Holy Quran, things that the Holy Prophet ﷺ told us to do, his traditions. Like what is even the point, especially where we're at now, Like what's the point to exist in that religious mindset when it's a capitalistic country? Like if you're not making money, what makes sense about your life? You know what I mean? Like what's your perspective? Break down like your mindset around that,
Right, for sure, for sure. We live in a very capitalist society where everything's about the money and everyone's just chasing this world. And growing up in that, and you see everybody you grew up with chase that as well. For me personally, it was when I would see these people chasing this money, and I would just see them constantly stuck in this cycle of okay, make money, get to work, make money, get to work, and it was almost as if they were living like this zombie kind of lifestyle, mindless and just doing what they're told to do. And I always felt as if there was something more to this. So I would only find that out when I would go and I would pray and when I would communicate with Allah. And so when I would read the Quran and I found out that men and jinn haven't been created other than we worship Allah, that's what really led me to kind of chase him a little bit more because there's a purpose to all of this. There's a purpose to our existence, as you said. So
And there's a deeper purpose.
for sure, for sure.
What the Quran is telling us.
And it's to relate to Allah. And the only way we can relate to Allah and to achieve Allah is if we chase him in that prayer. And that's the best way to do it. Right? The first thing that we're going to be held accountable for at the day of judgment is our prayers. It's the first thing that's going to be asked of us.
It's interesting how Rabbi Saab put that into specific words. Like the chase is there.
Yeah.
It's not like don't chase anything.
Yeah.
That's not what Islam is telling us,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Do the chase. That's fine. Strive for something. It's just that you're changing your destination.
Yeah.
Definitely. We need to remember that the end result isn't this world because this world is temporary. You look around us, everyone has experienced some sort of death in their life. And we are reminded anytime that somebody dies that they're going to end up somewhere else. And when they end up somewhere else, what are they going to have to account for? Anything that they've gained in this world is going to be buried with them. They can't take it with them. So everything relates back to Allah and your spiritual progress.
So what do you tell a guy that's created so much distance from their from praying. If that's what is gonna we're gonna be held accountable on the last day, how what would you tell somebody who has created so much distance from initiating just daily salat that they don't even know how to get back into it, or they're just in the mindset of like what is the point now that God doesn't love me, or God doesn't care, what whether I turn, like it's just too late for me, like that despair, right? That despair sets in,
For sure.
and it almost becomes you almost go into a trance where unless someone shakes you out of it, you're lost in that mindset. So what would you do to shake somebody out of that,
Well, I would relate it back to their purpose in life. Like you need to look deeper within you to answer that question. If you're not a Muslim, even about somebody who's stuck in that rut of this world, their purpose is only to attain money. But you need to remind them that what is it all for in the end, right? You can attain all this money in the world, but your time is gone, right? Your relationships that you developed over time are gone. So what is it ultimately for? And so when we relate that idea back into their head, then I've seen a trend in even in my personal relationships with people that when they turn back towards God, everything starts to click for them again, within this world and in the next life as well, in terms of their spiritual progress.
Yeah, we're just talking to some young guys recently, and they're growing up in this society, growing up close to the mosque, so they have a connection, so they can see both sides. And one of the young guys said something really interesting that's kind of stuck with me a little bit. And he was saying it just in passing how he experienced it, but I thought it was really interesting as an observer. He said that, you know, the way I would explain it to someone is that, regarding prayer, is that once you taste it, then you see the result of it in your life, and then you kind of feel guilty for not having tasted it before or for not continually tasting it. And that's so beautiful because that's a natural response from his heart.
Yeah.
But that's how Hazrat Masih Islam described it. Once you've tasted prayer, and you've tasted its reward, and you've tasted that in your life, now you feel like not having that is the gap, right? There's a guilt attached to not being able to taste that, the pleasure of that prayer. Adam Sima also describes the fact that if you can't taste it, it's just like somebody who gets physically sick and they can't taste food.
Mm.
So sometimes, even spiritually, we go through these gaps, right? You just fall into a rut. Sometimes you feel like there's a high and then there's a low. So if you can't taste the true connection with Allah Ta'ala, a true success, a true reward of your efforts in striving towards Allah Ta'ala, you're in the rut. But it's exactly as if somebody's sick, as Masih has described it. And what happens when someone's sick? There are cures for that sickness, right? And what the amazing thing about prayer is that it's the cure for itself.
Yeah. The reality is to just start the prayer again, and that will help the process, right? That's that first and the first dosage of the antidote, right? Like if you don't do it, then it ain't gonna happen.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
not gonna happen and that's the beauty in Islam as well, the practicality of it, right? It's not. This isn't magic. Like you have to put in the effort
Right.
and not be lazy about it, But talk about growing up in America, growing up in the area that you grew up in. Why'd you go into Jamia when you could have? I know that New Jersey, New York is high speed, man.
Yeah,
I
man.
know, man. It's
Hustle and bustle kind of
yeah.
lifestyle.
What's
Yeah.
like all the movies, like they represented it perfectly.
Yeah,
Like when you
for
go
sure.
there and like the best scenes are when they're people are walking and it's like time for work and they're just moving through the streets and you bump somebody, like if you stand still, like people bump you, like get out of my way, I'm going to work,
Yeah,
I gotta get my
it's
bagel,
real
I'm
like that.
walking
Yeah.
here. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's New York, right?
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
so like being in that environment, how'd you slow that down to make the conscious decision to then go to Jamia?
It wasn't like I just woke up and I decided to go to Jamia and nothing like that. Yeah, as a kid, I've always wanted, because I'm not Vakfino, and they say Vakfinos should be the ones to eventually grow older and do Vakf and dedicate their lives and become missionaries. But for me, I wasn't Vakfino, but everyone would always say these Vakfino kids, they're special. Like, man, these guys aren't that special. Probably I could beat them in any competition right now. So when I was like maybe
I was working.
I'm walking for no, man.
yeah, I'm
Nah,
special
nah,
too.
let's go right now. No.
It was like that. So I took it personal. And so when I wrote a letter to Khalifa Rabi, rahmatullah alayh, I was maybe 7 years old, and I said, Azur, I want to be a Vakfino. And I was so ready to join this program, and I got the letter back from Azur, and he was like, "Nope, you can't be a Vakfino." I was devastated. But then the very next line, he said, "When you get older, dedicate your life." So when I was 7 years old, I was like, "I'm gonna be a Murabbi when I grow up." But growing up in America, like you said, especially in the area that we grew up, that's not the vibe that you get from any of those people there. Everyone's about that hustle and bustle lifestyle. Everyone's like we began this podcast by saying everyone's running after the world. That area is known for that. So growing up in that, I also fell victim to that. And so in high school is kind of when I lost my way. I joined another crowd, and I kind of strayed from Islam. And then I ultimately made the decision that I wasn't going to go to Jamia. And so I did my first year at Rutgers University. And when I was there, I was barely coming home. And I was the furthest away from the Jamaat that I've ever been. Not just the Jamaat, the furthest away that I've been from Allah that I've ever been. And I found myself falling down this very slippery slope and finding myself in a place where I didn't want to be. So much so that I declared myself an atheist at a time, and when I was at Rutgers University. And so there was this one time where I was just very out of it. And I couldn't recognize the man in the mirror anymore. And I had to have a serious conversation with myself that you used to be that kid that wanted to dedicate his life and said that you were special and better than these Wakfano kids. Now look at you. What are you doing? You don't even believe in God anymore. And I bring it back to prayer because that very night I was like, I haven't prayed in forever. Let me pray and let me see what happens. So I prayed that very night, tears flowing out of my eyes, and I've never prayed like that. And so I felt as if, like, when I closed my eyes, I was praying on a prayer mat, and it was a golden prayer mat. It was darkness all around me. And I felt as if there was these eyes just watching me, and I knew that Allah Ta'ala was there watching me during that time. And so when I fell asleep that night, I had this crazy, crazy dream in which I'm in this house with my entire family. And there's this giant tsunami coming. And we all run inside, and we're all like huddled up in together, and we're just praying, and we're praying, and we're praying. And the tsunami passes, and we look around, our house is still there, everything's fine. Wow. And then a second tsunami comes, and we all do the same thing. We huddle back into the living room, we pray, and it passes, and everything's fine. And then a third tsunami is coming, and on the horizon, we could see it from our house. And then my mom's like, come, we need to pray again so it passes. And I told my mom in that dream, no, I'm good, it's fine. We pass 2 tsunamis, we'll be okay. This house is strong enough to keep us safe. And I went outside. And so when that tsunami came, the house was fine. But I drowned in that wave.
Interesting.
And so I woke up, and immediately I felt, I related it to my life, that I had 2 opportunities right after high school to go to Jamia. And during university, in the beginning of it, I had another opportunity to go to Jamia, and I didn't take those. Now, if I see this third opportunity that I have possibly in my mind to completely do a 180 and change my life completely, I have this opportunity, and if I let it go, I'm going to be drowned in this wave of this world. And so I took that, and I wrote that to Hazur, and Hazur immediately advised me to apply to Jamia. And
Wow.
Alhamdulillah.
That's
that's how
powerful.
I ended up.
Yeah, that's powerful, man.
That's powerful.
It's
I
the
was
power of
I was
prayer.
not expecting that, but that's why we have these. That's why we have this podcast, man. You know, that's what people need to hear, man. And like, you know, I got a little emotional. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, you know, like that was powerful, man. I appreciate you opening up and like sharing that with us. Like, a lot of guys need to hear that because people are going through that same stuff you're going through, and like people now, guys now, again, I'm gonna bring it back again because of social media. Like, it's harder to disconnect. It's harder to hold on to something before you slip down that slope, and then you know you're not able to have that conversation in the mirror, like to check yourself
For sure.
or to have strong enough buddies, you know, brothers in faith that are like, hey man, whoa, where are you going, man?
Yeah.
You know, slow down. So I appreciate you sharing, man, because
I'm actually happy you brought that up, that you had brothers to bring you back. And it was these brothers from Central Jersey Jamaat that kind of held my arm and were like pulling me back into that direction. Like, yo, what are you doing? You got to get back into being a Muslim. Look at what you're doing, and you know where you're going. So that brotherhood is what pulled me kind of back into reality, and was allowed me to get into that position to pray.
Wow.
And I want to add that it wasn't just after that prayer that I was 100%, oh, that's it, I'm a Sufi, I'm going to be praying all my five. It wasn't like that. It was a slow and steady climb out of that hole that I dug myself into. But it's that climb that brought me back to Allah Ta'ala, the beauty in the struggle
Yeah.
that brought me back. And
That's
the
beautiful.
prayers that I've achieved after that and the communications that I've had with Allah Ta'ala are amazing. I can't even explain in words.
And when a person sort of melts on Allah Ta'ala's threshold, Allah Ta'ala unlocks
Yeah.
a level in their heart that is achievable. And if they keep climbing towards that, it becomes more and more achievable. And slowly they climb out of that darkness, like you're describing. And then there's a new level that Allah Ta'ala unlocks. Azam Sima describes something really beautiful. He says that it's as if a person feels that Allah Ta'ala is manifesting a new version of himself. And like your stories, it manifests that for somebody who struggles through this darkness. They reach out and Allah Ta'ala grabs their hand. And it seems like, whoa, this is a new version. I never experienced this version of my God. And a person keeps striving, and then it happens again. And a person experiences a new version of their God again. So it's so beautiful. Allah Ta'ala is infinite. But as soon as we make the effort, we experience Allah Ta'ala in new versions, in new ways, right? But the first step has to be from us.
Yeah.
And Jamaat is such a beautiful system at every single level that there are, guardrails, there are steps, there are structures around us to help us every single day. And sometimes we get bogged in, into the system. Oh, mere se chanda maang rahe hain. I don't want to answer this person, or I don't want to answer the call of that person. They keep asking me to clean the masjid, or, all of these extra things. But at the end of the day, every single thing that somebody's calling you for, somebody's bringing you back in any way, every single part of Jamaat structure is attached to the idea of bringing a person towards Allah Ta'ala. And so, as those people who are part of the Jamaat, we have to be incredibly grateful to Hazrat Sima alayhi salatu wasalam, to Allah Ta'ala for granting us this structure in this day and age, right? To bring us back to Him.
Yeah, I think like that's huge, and that's profound, because everybody needs that connection, and you don't realize, like, I don't think any of us can say that when you're reluctant to go and help out with something, after whether you're a guy, there's someone, the local president, whoever asks for your help, I don't think anyone's gone and then been like, I wish I didn't come, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Yeah, you're reluctant. Whatever roadblocks you start building up in your head, when you go and you do it, you feel great.
For sure.
Like, who doesn't feel good reading prayer inside the masjid, right? Like, it's a different level of peace and serenity that you're able to achieve, or even going and vying with others to do good works at the masjid, whatever it is. So I think that's crucial, and whether people, I think if we collectively understand that when we are reaching out to tap somebody, that's the rope that we're extending out, and it's benefiting them and us. We a lot of times fail to realize how many other people, young people our age, older than us, are watching us.
For sure.
And so, like, to give a small example, a young kid has an interaction with you, and actually, not to put the person on the spot, but one of my email addresses that I rarely use, right? But it has the persona of what my childhood name is Aji. So it's ajitopia@gmail.com, right? I check it here and there. And there was an email from a young kid. And he's like, Assalamu alaikum, is this Aji Tariq Saab, right? And I was like, yeah. And like, I'm like going back and forth with this young man.
Is this an invitation to all the Atfal to message you?
Well, I mean, it
Got
is.
his email.
If you want to, just know that, if it's email, like, I'm gonna check it here and there. It's not gonna be like text, and that's a big commitment. But the point is, like, I corresponded with this young man, like, back and forth, and he ended up being from Canada,
Wow.
and like, I could have like stopped talking to him, or like just not responded and been like, well, who was this? Like, this is kind of like an email scam or whatever. But I talked to him. I took the time out to just shoot him an email back, and I think some small gesture like that, it helps keep people connected, because
For sure.
you don't realize, like, you're locked in. You're trying to complete your mission. You're trying to complete your duty, but how many people you put off by blowing them off, giving them a cold shoulder,
Yeah.
by complete accident, because you're so locked in and committed.
Right.
But I don't know if you guys have like ran into that issue at all, but
Yeah,
you
you're absolutely right. Like there was a family in LA, and one of the young members of the family, he intended that he was going to go to Jalsa West Coast, but only to please his mother, because his mother kept saying, "You have to go, you have to go, you have to go." So he thought to himself that I'll go, my mother will be happy, then I can just go back. But internally, he was also thinking that I don't really care for the speeches or anything like that. It's fine that my mother will be satisfied and I can say I went. But if anyone talks to me and asks me how I'm doing, I'll stay.
mm,
And this is a thought in his heart.
yeah.
Nobody knows. He hasn't told anyone this. But he goes to the Jalsa. As soon as he enters the parking lot, some missionary meets him and he asks, "How are you doing? What's going on in your life?
Yeah.
Let's stay connected. Maybe we can, get some lunch after." And just that gesture connected him back to the Jamaat. The missionary didn't know what was going on in his heart. Maybe Allah Ta'ala put it in the missionary's heart to go and speak to him. So, any person, like you're saying, in any position in the Jamaat, um, they might not even realize how far reaching their small gestures might be. Smiling at someone. The Holy Prophet ﷺ stated that smiling is charity. This is the reason. Because it can change someone's life,
Yeah.
right? And the examples of the Promised Messiah ﷺ that are just so inspiring. One of them is, Huzur would not cut anyone's speech. He would listen to them fully, no matter who they were. In fact, there's this beautiful example where the Holy Prophet, where the Promised Messiah ﷺ, he would be walking in Qadian, and there was a sort of madman. Everyone knew. People didn't care for him at all. He was in rags all the time. And he would go and speak to people. People would not pay any attention to him and then cut him off and keep walking. But Huzur would stand there every single time. Mind you, this is the Prophet of God who is doing Allah's work, constantly fighting a jihad against the entire world. And he stands there every time this elderly person in rags who has nothing beneficial to say to the Promised Messiah ﷺ, every time he calls him and he wants to speak to him, the Promised Messiah ﷺ stands there and he listens to him and he talks to him.
I know everything comes back to human nature as well. As humans, we're very social creatures. And so we need to remember, in whatever position we are, we're still human at the end of the day. And we need to realize that other people who aren't in this position, they're also human. So, like I was explaining with my story earlier, it was those brothers in Central Jersey who kind of nudged me back towards Islam. And so we need to be that arm to be able to reach out so that people can also come and grab it. Right? There's a verse in the Quran, وَتَعْصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ Jamia, hold fast to the rope of Allah all together. All together means that it's not just you single-handedly holding onto the rope, but it's you and all your brothers that you're going to bring along with you,
Yeah.
right? So we need to remember that we need to be that bridge or that helping hand to bring other people back as well. And just as this brother who came to this Jalsa, I think I can personally relate to him as well. When I was in Jamia, like I said, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Even when I was in Jamia, I would have thoughts of like, what am I doing? I need to leave this. And there was a time where I was so depressed and I just went into Beth al-Islam in Peace Village. It was empty. I just went and sat on the chairs and I'm just profusely, I'm crying and no one's there. I'm just thinking I'm talking to Allah Ta'ala and all of a sudden I feel like a hand on my shoulder. And I look over and it's the late Mubarak Nazir Saab. And he's like, Beta, just sabr karo. Just have patience. And it was just that one nudge that, somebody's giving me comfort in this time of distress that was like, I have, I can be brave. I can have that strength to, continue, maybe give it another day.
I think it's exciting that you're now in St. Louis area, and there's a lot of cool people down there.
For sure.
Yeah,
Great place. You
a
guys
lot.
should definitely go
I've
visit.
met some brothers out there. I know
Yeah.
Sadr Saab was there before,
Yeah.
and so it's pretty impressive. The type of, we have so much talent as humans, as Ahmadis across the country, and it's untapped like treasure that's everywhere. and there's many families, lost families that have just they're continuing to be a part of Ahmadiyya, but the freshness bringing them back, like that's needed, and there's more lessons that we can learn from them and to help all hold on to that rope of Allah. And
Right.
I think like we all need each other, man. Like we really do, because you can't do it. If your grip on that rope gets loosened up, Rabbi Sal's gotta he's gotta tighten down, and you never know when you're gonna be down bad again.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of Islam, right? It's just it's a wave, right? You're gonna have peaks and valleys. But I appreciate both of you guys. Rabbi Sal, always, when you show up, it's great. I smile. I'm
Exactly.
excited,
Jazakumullah for
I'm
having
my
me.
Canadian brother in the house, And alhamdulillah, Asjad, we appreciate everything that, you're doing out there. And, we really appreciate you opening up. As men, I think we fail to be transparent with how we feel and navigate our emotions, and especially our spiritual journey. And I think it helps other young men be able to open up and express themselves, especially coming from the type of culture we have where we normally suppress those feelings and don't like to talk about them.
For sure.
And avoid that. But in a sense, these podcast episodes are therapeutic for me. So
Yeah.
I appreciate, you opening up, and I respect you for that. And, I extend that to everyone else, all of our viewers and listeners, don't be afraid to open up, to your brothers, so that they can support you in whatever you're going through during these times. But, until next time, we'll stay in touch. Maybe I'll come. Maybe me and Roby Saab will team up and come down to St. Louis.
There's
and see
great
you.
food,
have
man.
to
We
go.
could have some
I
great
heard
barbecue out in
about
St. Louis.
some bakery. Is there like a bakery? I think I saw on the MTV
There's a
documentary.
donut shop.
The
It's
donut
yeah,
shop.
Pharaoh's Donuts. Shout out Pharaoh's Donuts.
Shout out Pharaoh's Donuts. I saw that.
They're delicious, man.
But inshallah, we'll
We gotta taste that barbecue again.
Yes,
man.
Yeah.
you
Guys
gotta run it
come out,
back.
man. Guys gotta come
You
out.
gotta run it back. No, it's been great, and until next time, man. Keep in contact.
For sure.
Make sure you don't forget about us, man. Wherever you go, and
Never
we
that,
won't
man.
forget about you,
Never
man.
that.
So to our viewers, until next time, until we vibe out again, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
يا رب صل على نبيك دائما في هذه الدنيا وبعد صل على نبيك دائما في هذه الدنيا وبعد